Green webs and grandchildren, this is Jack K, and welcome to a totally not last minute Play With Me review response. In case you don't know the deal, MrWaterWraith makes reviews, encourages people to respond to them. I am responding to this one, and I'm totally not doing it last minute. Today I will be reviewing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, the first installment of the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series, Red being on the GBA and Blue being on the Nintendo DS. Through this, they made use of features that connected the GBA and the DS together. For the sake of the review, I will also be comparing it a lot to Pokemon Mystery Dungeon's Explorer in Time. Because Explorers of Time came out afterwards, you may think that it's superior. However, I tend to find pros and cons between the two of them. Starting with the basic storyline of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team. You are a Pokemon. You get turned into a Pokemon after completing a personality quiz, which I think is an interesting way to try to get into your character and use your character to determine what kind of Pokemon you can be. It's kind of disappointing that they took it out in more recent games, but the freedom to pick whatever Pokemon you want is probably for the best, because most of us just cheat the personality quiz to be the Pokemon we want anyways. After you choose your Pokemon, you get thrown into the big wide world of other Pokemon. And Pokemon kind of have a kin towards understanding each other. Something that I kind of doubt that even animals have. So there's a whole bunch of plot exploits and the whole mystery of why you turn into a human, and that's basically all there is to say. The rest is worth finding out for yourself. At this game's release, the whole concept of turning into a Pokemon and the whole gameplay style was an incredibly unique concept. Other games have done it before, but this was the first time it was incorporated into the Pokemon franchise. And such a unique idea can innovate a series, but also isolate people who want more of the same. As for my thoughts of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, I actually think it's a really cool gameplay concept. I'm pretty sure there's dungeon crawlers before, but to be honest, Blue Rescue Team was the first time I was introduced to them. The whole dungeon crawling aspect was a unique idea for the Pokemon series. Considering Pokemon is a series that can often be hard-pressed for new and unique and interesting ideas, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon was a nice breath of air to the Pokemon series, and I personally liked it for its changes. Granted, the sequels had a lot to live up to, because just the concept of turning into a Pokemon had enough shock value to get people into the story. As for if I think this series lives up today, I think it does a good job. Using Explorers of Time as a comparison, it does have a pretty basic story, but then again, the whole idea of turning into a Pokemon was still new and fresh at the time. The gameplay style is pretty nice, and I think the dungeons are pretty enjoyable. The one thing I can understand people having issue with Mystery Dungeons is the whole random aspect. On one hand, it kind of makes for a new experience every time you go into a dungeon. On the other hand, how much of a unique experience is it when the dungeons lay out pretty similarly? Like, the environments look the same every time you go through them. The actual paths you have to take and the items and Pokemon you run into in each floor randomly changes every time you go into a dungeon. But that random generator aspect kind of ends up for a little bit of repetition in the look of the environment. You may be going through a different path, but the area you're in is still the same. And the problem is that this kind of plays out in all the dungeons. You'll be running into different Pokemon in different dungeons, but if you just watch someone play the game, it all kind of meshes together after a while. Playing the game, however, is a lot more interesting. So the gameplay and story are pretty good for its time. Though I do feel Explorers in Time does do a better job with storytelling and adding twists to make the game more interesting. One last thing I really want to make a comparison of is the post-game, because I feel the post-game is the biggest difference between the original two Mystery Dungeon games and their predecessor. With the predecessor, some people may claim that the Mystery Dungeon games are better than the originals due to the sole fact that it's actually just a continuation of the story. The story actually has more depth after you beat the main game and get the credits. On the other hand, I personally feel it just extends the story, and it doesn't actually feel like you've actually beat the game. You're just given a false sense of security. And with the original, I feel the post-game dungeons are a lot more interesting. The challenges you have to face in the post-game dungeons for a Blue Rescue Team are a lot more interesting than those that you go through in the game's predecessors. With Blue Rescue Team, there's various varieties in the rules. Like sometimes you have to go alone, sometimes you start up at level 1, and things like that. I think the level 1s are kind of my favorite, because it forces you to reset from the beginning. You start at the teensy bottom of the Pokemon chain, and you have to climb your way back up, growing and gaining experience while not getting monsterly destroyed along the way. Which is a lot easier said than done, considering I don't think I've ever actually been a post-game dungeon in Blue Rescue Team. But I'm sure it's possible if I were to put the time into it. I find these a lot more interesting than the ones in the game's predecessor, solely because there's actually a difference in them. With Explorers of Time, the only thing that really separates the dungeons apart is the fact that they continue on with a story that you've already beaten. So I guess overall, it depends on whether you want a difference in gameplay or a continuation of story, with saying which game has the better post-game. And that is a brief enough review of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team. I could go on about it a bit more, but it has been a while since I last played the game, and I don't want too intensive of a review of something I'm just making as a video response. Which is totally not something I'm doing last minute. Okay, I'll shut up. This has been Jackie K, and I hope to see you guys later. Today I will be reviewing Pokemon Blue Mystery Dungeon. That is totally not last minute, guys, then okay, I'll shut up.